criticized you about is like, I mean, there's all these stories, how Tanya travels the world with no job. Like, I mean, there's just like,
I travel how a lot of people would never imagine to travel.
probably very well, right? You probably know a lot of the travel hacks and tips and tricks. What are you doing now for a living? Because that's also been like a source of a lot of speculation. People are like, how are you doing this? You're a bartender, which there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. It's just, I don't know. People are very critical of you for some reason in your jobs.
And
No,
it's because I was critical of my ex, but I've always made money. I always made money and I always knew I would make money. So I knew I could count on that. And I didn't know if I could count on him to make money when we needed to make money. That was the critical part. I've always been in the hospitality industry, and thankfully I work in Southeastern Connecticut, Boston, and Providence. I worked in major tourist areas. I got lucky at the age of 20. I got into one of the top 50 nightclubs in the world for revenue. I had applied to this place 2 times. On the 3rd time I applied, one of my best friends at the time, her cousin worked for them. So I was able to put her name on the application. That's what got me an interview. And that just set it off from there. Once you start making a certain level of money, you're like, I'm not making less than this. So that just really set me up. I was making really good money. And they have a lot of, not just nightclubs, they also have really fine dining restaurants within Boston. So I'd work with them and I would make, I counted when I was in school in 2014, that was the last time I was really like kind of living that style. And I always say that because now people will try to throw my adult work into it. And it's like, no. Even when I was before the adult work, I was doing this lifestyle. I worked part-time, maybe 3 days on app. So I made about 40,000, which isn't a lot of money. But when you think about it, I was 20 something at the time. And I had only at that time, after the year was done and I looked how much money I made, and I kind of was like, okay, I traveled this time. I had averaged working part-time for less than 6 months. And that's how much money I made.
wow, that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just got another job this summer. I worked one Saturday night because then I went right to Italy after. I worked one Saturday night, worked less than 8 hours, and made $600 in one shift. But if you're working, and the one thing for me, like my mom taught me to save when I was younger, and I'm frugal as hell. My friends get annoyed because they're like, you have money. And I'm like, I have it, but doesn't mean I need to spend it. Like I'm frugal as hell. Like I've always had used cars. Like I buy cars cash out. If I can't buy it for 5 or 10K cash out, I'm not buying it. I don't want a car payment. I don't want high car insurance. Everyone talks about you got to fix a car. My best friends have all bought new cars or new used cars with high payments, and they still need to fix them. What's the difference? Like,
Yeah. And
I'm
this
frugal, I budget.
that's terrific.
Yeah.
I had read, I was curious more about this. So at one point when you went to Costa Rica, when you were with St. John and they were filming, were you actually going to a college to become a witch? Because this sounds awesome. Tell me about being a witch.
I was going to study intro to herbalism. So
Okay.
that the whole witch thing came about because while filming one of the interview days, I was talking about how much like herbalism like is great and how I'd love to take what I learned and like continue to learn off of it and be able to make teas and tinctures and things. So I
Sure.
can be the community witch doctor. Like if people are like, I have this ailment, I'm like, here's some tea for you, or here's a salve, and that whole community witch doctor just, I mean, I don't mind it. People want to make fun of me, but then when COVID happened and everyone's talking about, oh, the pharmaceuticals and I'm like, weren't y'all laughing about me wanting to be a witch doctor? Because what y'all want now? These natural remedies, don't you?
Let me send you the oil of oregano that you're supposed to breathe in that will help your COVID. Yes. I kind of loved that. I hoped you were a good witch only. There's bad witches. there was a woman that I followed. It's a long story here in Los Angeles. And she just did this whole thing on how she's like no longer a witch. She's like denouncing witchcraft because it got like too dark. Like she had manifested all this money, but there was like a downside. I don't play with, I do believe in real like good and evil. There's dark and light. And I only fuck with the good witches. I don't want the bad witches. So I don't know.
I mean, when we think about bad witches, a lot of times they're just putting the energy back out there that they were given. So that's why when a lot of times when people are rude to me online, I don't say, a lot of times people are like, oh, be high or say have a good day. No, have the day you deserve. I don't need to say have a good day. You want to be an asshole to me? Have the day you deserve. I'm not going to wish you good or bad. Have what you deserve.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times people think there's like bad witches, and it's really like, there's just energy that they were given. They're probably just putting back out there. And I mean, they can transmute it, but anyways, that's more conversation.
No, it's it's interesting. It's interesting. I love all that stuff. I've always gone to acupuncturist, apothecary, and I mean, I mix like Eastern, Western medicine and other things. I mean, I can't say like I'm solely in it, but I love. Oh my god, I mean, I've done every tarot card and reader and this and that. I mean, it's kind of some of it. I think is very interesting, and there's really, as you've studied, a lot of truth to these, things that our ancestors did that really did help, a lot of evidence. And you have to take care of your body a lot more than I think we're told, like with the crap you put in yourself.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, like you said, ancestors, everything, like everything that everyone like tries to criticize now, and witches and all this are the same thing that like people have been trying to get back to forever. Like now the affluent is living how Native people used to live. They're starting their own farms. They're able to get all the clean drinking water that they want. They're able to have all the healthcare, like, penicillin is it's the number one like miracle drug that ever came about. I think like almost tripled our population since the invention of penicillin. It's based off of a mushroom.
Look, you see it all the time now. You're seeing psychedelics come back, for certain depression things. And those have been used for years and years in various forms.
Yeah.
So are you pursuing, I mean, you, I love you, girl. You're like me. You got a million different interests. Are you pursuing any of that now? Like, I mean, I could even see you with your little own apothecary, but that's a whole nother tough job. I mean, that's a lot of work,
Yeah. It's so funny. Have you ever seen the movie Practical Magic with Sandra Bullock?
Yes, I think I did years ago.
Okay, it's a witch movie. She has a little apothecary. My mom and I always, since we saw that show, wanted to have that. That is the thing is great and also sucks about me. I have a million fucking interests.
I hear you.
And what I've been coming to realize now is like I have all these interests because they can come into like something, and I haven't. What it's looking like for me, I believe, is gonna be more of like an intimacy coach. But I'm trying to figure out how all these different pieces kind of fit together. And I've actually followed this one woman, Amans, on social media. I actually studied astrology with her. And she's so beautiful because she learns all these new things and she delves right into it. And then you're like, oh, like someone who'd look from a side would be like, oh, now she has something new. Oh, now she has something new. But I've realized like she takes all these things she learns and she continues to use them in different parts and aspects. And she's continuing growing. And that to me, she's been like a complete inspiration. Because for me, I'm like, it's so, even though I've like separated myself from what society puts on me, I'm like, I need to do something. What do I need to do? It needs to look like this. I struggle with perfectionism. Yeah. And so herbalism was a thing. The depression from the show really kicked my ass with that. I was really excited. I actually saved our wedding gifts, our wedding favors, where I made like spritzers and teas for our guests. And I actually made like I made actually extras for all of the crew members so they could take some home. And if I knew they had like partners, I gave them like double. And then I kept 10 extra for fans that I wanted to give out to fans.
Wow.
And the show came out and I had so much hate. I still have them in a box. I was like, no one's going to want these. Everyone hates me. I still have them in a box, and I posted about it when I was moving, and I came across them. I was like, oh, would anyone want these? And the response was like, yeah. Even if, I was like, well, don't drink the tea and don't use the spritzer. They're like 5 years old, but they're like, no, it'd be a great memorabilia. So I'm like, all right, like when I try to get these out of storage, like I'll mail these out to people. So
and it is such a bummer, like you were saying, witch doctors were always healers in community. They were like local doctors. They weren't, that you hear this witch and you think, that, but that wasn't what you're doing. Yeah. That's such a bummer, because it's so hard for people to wrap their head around,
the
ideas.
I am still looking. I feel like after St. John Lads, I was kind of like, what am I doing? Like recuperating. What does this now look like for me moving forward? So lately what I've been doing is just a lot of research. Like, what are the things I really want to learn about? How do I know this will fit into like my overall, what I want my life to look like? So I do have like classes, like there's so funny because St. John wants to go to Thailand now. And I told him, I was like, I'm probably going to end up in Thailand. He's like, oh, Shane and I are going. I'm like, oh, the fuck. Now people are going to think I'm following you. There's
Right.
this one tantra, like not an ashram, but like a community there that I want to go spend a couple months at. There's a psychology program in London I want to go do. There's functional nutrition medicine course that is online. I really would love to do I'm an in-person learner, so online learning is really hard for me. So I'm trying to find like an in-person one, which is like so hard to do.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, everyone's gone
Yeah.
online.
So I'm trying. I'm just starting to go out there, like hosting this women's group that I'm going to be doing in Aruba is like amazing for me. I'm so excited because it's going to be a mix of fun and like wellness. So I do have like women's circles happening. I have intimacy circles that are going to be happening amongst us. And it's funny. I was like talking to my therapist. She was like, you've been wanting to host women's circles for so long, and you like skipped that and went straight to a big group trip to Aruba. I'm like, I did, didn't I? I'm like, I'm proud of myself. Like, cause I struggle. I am an extrovert, introvert. I'm actually like a lot more self-conscious. Like my self-esteem isn't as high as it seems. I know I'm a dope person, but I'm like, do other people think I'm dope? And that's always been how I've been even before TV. So I'm like, I'm gonna do women's circles. I'm like, who would ever want to come? Who would want to do this? Like no one would.
Oh,
So
tons of women.
it's always hard for me to put things out there because I'm like,